Hi, welcome back to another episode of Nobody's Doing It Right. For today's episode, I want to talk about ominous positivity. And this is something that I've talked about before in my content. I recently wrote a Substack essay about this, so if you want to read more in-depth thoughts on this topic, follow me over on Substack. I think I made a TikTok video about it a year or so ago-ish. I want to preface by saying that this isn't a term that I've coined. I've seen it floating around the internet, and the moment I saw it and learned what it was, it completely clicked for me, because that is exactly, I think, the way that I tend to approach, or have had to learn to approach, a reframing of self-limiting beliefs and negative beliefs about life in general. So this is for anybody else like me who struggles with always, with trying to see the positive at times. And I'm not somebody, I don't really like toxic positivity. I think it doesn't serve you in the way that people might think it should. Obviously, I understand the impulse to want to look at the bright side of things, to find the silver lining, sure, and I do that as well. I do think that is important, but not at the expense of denying the darkness of life, because that also exists. And if you deny it, if you suppress it, it's just going to manifest and bubble up to the surface in other ways. So it's not about denying the negative. It's not only about looking at the positive, and this is specifically why I actually really like the idea of ominous positivity. It's acknowledging and accepting that bad things do happen and will happen, whether you want them to or not, whether you are worthy or deserving of them or not. Bad things happen. Like, that's life, because I also think that there is this, there's a tendency with content like this online, personal development content. I think there's a tendency to overemphasize that good things can, will, and do happen, and a lot of it's in your control, and you should always be looking for the good, and it denies the bad, and it denies recognizing that whether or not you like it, bad things are going to happen, because it's scary to accept that, right? We don't want to. It is terrifying, but that is part of life. So to deny it, to avoid accepting it, to avoid seeing it, it cuts away a huge chunk of the process of personal development, I think, at least, because it kind of feels like you're living in a fantasy when you only look at the positive, when you only see the positive as something that is possible and something you can completely and totally control. You can't. And that applies to the bad as well. You can't completely and totally control it. It is going to happen, and it's not your fault if it does happen sometimes, right? Like, there are things that we cannot control. They're going to happen. Yeah, we can make mistakes and it could lead to bad circumstances. Sure, that is within our control, but other times you can't. So there's nothing to do with you, your worth, your value. It just happens. And ironically, that also applies to good things too. And I want to explore this in depth, because I think I love looking at things from like a very neutral perspective, because it lowers the stakes of all this stuff. I think we're told that when it comes to getting good things in life, you have to go after it. Open yourself up, do the things that you want to do, chase your goals, which is true. Of course you do. But there's a lot of pressure to that too, right? It's like, if good things don't happen, then what does that mean? You're not doing enough. You're not going after it enough. You're not opening yourself up enough. You're not seeing yourself as worthy enough. Like, there's so much space there to target your sense of self, to look at your sense of self as not enough because good things aren't happening. So the way I am now approaching this, because it can be hard to really lean into positivity in some cases, especially with things happening in the world all the time. Good things are just as uncontrollable and unpredictable as the bad things. Again, I think we're taught that good things happen because we do things to have good things happen. We focus on our health and well-being. We go out and try to date so we can find a partner. We work on our goals to get success. Like, we think that good is a byproduct of effort, and good is just as uncontrollable as bad. So the reason I think ominous positivity is so beneficial, such a great reframing technique to have in your back pocket in moments when you feel really hopeless, is that good things will happen whether you want them to or not. It's almost kind of like looking at good things as a threat. In the same way that maybe if you're an anxious person like I am, you might think of the bad things, right? Like, bad things are just around the corner. They're ready to jump out at you. You're always hyper vigilant about the bad. You're predicting things so that you can avoid the bad. In the same way that you're doing that with bad things, with bad situations, circumstances, that also applies to the good. Because it is kind of like the balance of the universe. If one exists, then so does the other. So if we look at bad things as being often unpredictable, uncontrollable, you have to always be on guard for them because you don't know when it's going to happen, and it's going to happen whether you like it to or not. If you're somebody who is in that headspace all the time, as I have been throughout my life, always thinking that, the worst is just around the corner, that also applies to the good. The good is just around the corner. It's going to happen whether you want it to or not. You have no control over the good happening to you. And it doesn't even have anything to do with your worth or value, whether good or bad happens to you. And I think that's also really important, because another common topic I see a lot circulating in personal development, which I've also included in my own content because I do think it is important, is the idea of self-worth. Of course, we want to look at ourselves as worthy, because if we don't, it can lead us to acting in certain ways that then sabotage ourselves, hurt us, hurt others. We project things onto people because we don't feel good about ourselves, all that stuff. But your worth is irrelevant when it comes to what happens in life. It has nothing to do with whether you're worthy of it or not. So in the same way that, if something bad were to happen to you, it's not because you're worthy of something bad happening to you. We would never say that, and we would never want to think that. It also kind of applies to the good, right? It's not because you're worthy of good things happening to you that they're happening to you. It's because good things just happen. And I think the reason that's so healthy, for me at least, to look at it that way, is because it doesn't then trigger this need to prove your worth, to be good, to be better, to do whatever you need to do to become this worthy person for good things to happen. Because it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. The good things will happen, whether you're worthy or not, whether you try or not. They're just as inevitable as the bad things are. And it also leaves you less susceptible to seeing other people who have good things happening to them often as somehow more worthy than you. Because if good things just happen, they just happen. That it has nothing to do with that person being better than you, more worthy than you. Some people just happen to have that happen. And it's not always something that you want to, it doesn't feel good, right? If you feel like you've been having a lot of negative things happening, of course. But again, I think it just brings the stakes down. It makes it less about worth and value and how much you're doing, how much you need to do, that this person is somehow better than you and that's why this is happening. It's not. Good and bad just happen. And of course, this isn't to deny that some people just have more privilege than others. But even that is not within control all the time, So to focus on that too much, it's taking away from your own experience. Again, not easy. There are things that are unfair, and it's fine to feel that way and fine to recognize and acknowledge it. But again, I think the point of this is, how do you bring this back to focusing on you and focusing on making yourself feel just okay enough with all of the unpredictability and lack of control you have in this life, that all of us have in this life. So you can't control it. And so if you can't control it, there's no reason to beat yourself up over feeling or being not good enough, because that doesn't even, it's irrelevant. It doesn't even actually matter. So it kind of just brings you back to this neutral place, at least for me. And, this is not going to apply to everybody. It's not going to make everyone feel the way I feel about it, but I'm sharing it because it has helped a lot. It's made it easier to just kind of just refocus on my own path, just bring myself back to where I am, looking at what I need to look at, rather than focusing on, okay, this person's getting good things, which must mean that they're better. So how do I get better like them? It's like, that doesn't matter. It doesn't actually apply. It's irrelevant. And that's why I love ominous positivity. It's this way of looking at it as indisputable. You can't avoid it. It's unavoidable. The good is unavoidable in the same way that the bad is often unavoidable. And I think it's so much more liberating almost to see it that way. It's more freeing to be able to look at the good as just as unpredictable as the bad, because it's like, wait a minute. Okay, so if I'm worrying about bad happening here, and I'm not going to be, on guard enough for it, I'm not going to be vigilant enough for it, and the bad's going to happen, it's going to take me off by surprise, the good will do that too. So which one is more possible then? If both are possible, if both can coexist, right? The unpredictability of the bad and the unpredictability of the good, then if you were to only look at the bad, it doesn't logically make sense to only see that as the only valid thing to happen. But your anxiety, again, if you're like me, your ego, whatever, your fear will make you think that the bad is way more possible of happening, but it's equal to the good. Because if that is possible, right? If the bad is going to happen, whether you like it or not, it's unpredictable, it's chaotic, all that stuff, so is the good. So then it kind of, I think at least, makes it easier to let go of the control, to allow space for seeing what happens, letting yourself experience the good, because whether or not you want it to happen, it's going to happen. It's out of your control. So you might as well just be along for the ride. It does allow you to kind of be in flow state. Because, we always talk about how when it comes to bad or negative things, you have to kind of let it go, accept it, roll with the punches, because you don't want to sit and make yourself suffer more than necessary, right? Because bad things happen, there is suffering, it's not going to feel good. So you do kind of have to be able to let it roll off your shoulders when possible. It's not always going to be possible, it's not always going to be easy, but like that's how we, navigate those emotions. It's kind of, okay, how can I work through it? How can I process this? How can I work through it? How can I allow it to flow through me so that you're not in a negative headspace forever? The same applies to the good. Okay, how do I let the good flow through me? How do I let it happen? If it's going to happen, whether I want it to or not, and if it has nothing to do with my control and my effort or whatever, how do I just roll with it? What would that look like? Because I do also think that if we're seeing the good as a byproduct of effort and of our worth, of if we've done enough, if we're good enough, whatever, we're not going to allow ourselves to fully embrace it and indulge in it when it happens without our effort and without us feeling worthy enough or feeling like we've done enough to earn it or to have it happen, right? Within this mindset of being in control of it. We want to allow ourselves to experience it because it doesn't make cognitive sense, because we're seeing the good as a byproduct of effort, a byproduct of doing more, being better, whatever. But if it's not, and we can accept that with this topic and concept of ominous positivity, that it's going to happen whether you like it or not, it's kind of a threat, it's an inevitability. How do we let then the good, when it does happen, flow through us and just exist? It then allows you the opportunity to actually experience more good when it does happen, because it will happen in the same way that bad happens. It doesn't mean you have to indulge in the bad and enjoy it, but like if it's going to happen, you kind of have to move through it. Same applies to the good. It is kind of this neutrality to it. So if you're going to be super open to the bad, you're expecting the bad to happen. You feel like it's unpredictable, it's going to happen, you're ready for it, you're hypervigilant. That should also apply to the good, because you're denying yourself the opportunity then to experience the good when it does happen, because it will happen. It is an inevitability. I know I'm repeating words here, but I think it's really important to help like have these words and topics and concepts like stick in your brain. At least for me, it does. I repeat things all the time to myself because I need to be reminded. So if the bad is going to happen and you expect the bad to happen because bad is unpredictable, it's chaotic, it's whatever, so is the good. So the good will happen whether you want it to or not. And that's great. That's a great way to see things. And it is a practice to allow yourself to reframe it in this way, to be more comfortable with the idea of good being a threat, kind of. And I mean that in like the best way possible. I don't mean it in like a bad way, but what if the good is just going to happen whether you try to avoid it, whether you try to deny yourself the good, whether you believe it or not, whether you sabotage yourself, the good's still going to happen. Then what? That's freeing. That's very freeing, and it's very nice to expect it in that sense, to expect good to happen, whether you're in control of it or not, in the same way we accept bad. So I think this also helps to get you out of the anxious mindset. At least for me, it does. Obviously, I'm not a therapist. I'm not an expert in anxiety. It's just what my anxiety has looked like and what I've had to do to work through it myself. When I catch myself expecting the worst, expecting bad to happen, because that's always my defensive mechanism internally to protect myself, I also have to reframe it to, okay, if the bad then is so expected, it's gonna happen, then I have to also think that about the good, because one can't exist without the other. So that the two cancel each other out almost. So then you kind of get to this nice, comfortable, neutral space where it's like, okay, things are gonna happen whether I want them or not. So now what? What can I really focus on if it's not the hypervigilance towards the bad? I can focus on doing what feels most aligned and authentic for me. Because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is going to happen. Some things I can control, some things I can't. So now what? What do I do now? So I hope this was helpful. I hope it gave you a different perspective on this. It helped you reframe it. It provided a little bit of peace for you in the ways that it has for me. If you want to explore these topics in more depth with me, feel free to book a one-to-one call over on my website. If you want to read about this, like I said, it's over on my Substack. And yeah, if you want to follow me on Instagram and TikTok, you can watch my short form content. Other than that, thank you for being here, and I'll be back again soon with another episode.